I mean, he had so many Excel spreadsheets about the different types of credit cards and the points you can get, and so I
It's like a
actually,
game
it
too.
is a game. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's how he treated it. He thinks it's fun.
Yeah.
And he recommended, he was like, oh, you should get this and this American Airlines card, and when you apply and they send it to you, I forget what the amount is. I think it was if you spend. So you opened up those two cards, and if you spent $2,000 in 2 months,
Easy.
you got 50. Yeah, easy. You got 50,000 points.
Wow. So how far does that take you? Do you know?
That will pay at least for my ticket there.
All right, y'all. Welcome to Straight to the Bag. We got another episode today. We have a guy I used to train, but he's making big moves since I've seen him last. So I'm interested to learn just as much as y'all. So go ahead and introduce yourself and let them know what you've been doing, what you've been up to.
Yeah, so my name is Luke Albu. I guess what the main thing we'll talk about today is in September, I'm moving to Thailand for a year to continue my training, in the motherland of the sport. So, yeah.
So how did you get into Muay Thai?
So I got into Muay Thai. I went to OU down in Athens, Ohio, and started boxing, traditional boxing a little bit when I was down there in school. And then after graduating, I moved to Pittsburgh. And the apartment I had was less than half a mile from a boxing gym. Started training there, took a couple fights, and had a couple moves. And upon moving back home to Columbus, found Thai. And immediately loved it just because there's more tools. There was more to learn. It's obviously more than just your hands. It's the elbows, the knees, and the kicks too. So, yeah.
So did you grow up here?
Yep. Grew up in Columbus.
Originally from Columbus, and then you went to college in Athens, Ohio.
Yep. Athens, Ohio. So southeastern Ohio.
Okay. So at Ohio University, then you graduated from OU?
Yep.
Graduated from OU, went to Pittsburgh for what?
So I went to Pittsburgh for my first job from school was there. Dick's Sporting Goods Corporate. I was an assistant buyer there.
Okay.
Yep.
So living your dream, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yep. I'm using this degree real well. Obviously, moving to Thailand.
Yeah. So what happened between that and moving back here?
Moving back here. So after Pittsburgh, I was in the Navy very briefly before being medically separated. And obviously, no one plans on having that happen, medical separation. So
What does that mean?
So they found that I couldn't perform my job like during a physical. And so, yeah, I had to be separated. I had the choice to pick another job in the Navy or come home. I had signed up to do a very specific job. And so came home, again, not planning on doing that. So when I landed here, needed to find a job, wanted to get back into some type of training because the Navy was taking care of all of my physical fitness at a pretty high level. So, yeah, that's how I found.
Okay, so you came back to Columbus. Where'd you start training at?
I started training at Triumph BJJ, which is in Dublin. And just like that apartment in Pittsburgh, that was convenient. That was maybe less than a quarter mile from where I was living at the time. So
I guess for the people that have never trained before, like, were you nervous like first time you stepped in the gym?
Like for back in boxing back then?
Well, I guess first time you stepped in the gym, period, or like any combat sports gym.
Yeah, so I think I was curious. So that's really why I wanted to start in the first place. And so never really planned on wanting to compete, wanted to do something that was a different type of exercise. Had always enjoyed sports, played sports growing up. And then as you get a little older, it seems like, well, there's kind of one fitness path, which is run a ton of miles, either on a treadmill or outside, and lift some weights. And I wanted something that was also kind of mentally stimulating. Every time. And so once I went into a gym like that, whether it was boxing or Thai, after that hour and a half leaving, I always felt like I learned something, especially at the beginning, right? I mean, when you're a beginner, you just learn, as long as you're showing up consistently. So, yeah, and it was just neat to kind of have a skill.
Okay. Did you know from a young age that, like, yeah, I love this. I love fighting, and I love anything that has.
No, not at all. I mean, the sports I played were baseball and rec basketball.
Okay. And
team sports.
At that time, that's what you loved, or?
Yeah. My that's how I met most of my friends. And I mean, even in college at OU, I played more rec basketball than I did going to that boxing gym, just because it was a little off campus and harder to get to, and classes and all that. And that was a great way to meet people at school too, by playing a team sport. But the individual aspect of fighting, and that is something I've really learned to enjoy also. It's really you versus you, except for those 15, however many minutes you're in the ring. And even then, when it comes down to it, it's still a you versus you. Yeah,
100%. What do you think the toughest part is when you first starting out?
Learning kicks, for sure. For sure, it was learning kicks. Like I said, I like to train. And that process. And I think when I kind of connected the two between like, holy shit, I'm sweating bullets at the end of this hour. And I also walked away learning something new. That is what made me fall in love and want to keep coming back. But man, to get your hip through on those kicks, it took forever, thousands and thousands of kicks.
Yeah, I love it. You always had that work ethic? Because thousands is a lot, so people are like, what if I do thousands of times? Like,
yeah, I think work ethic is a funny thing. I think if you find something you love, it's pretty easy to keep showing up. There is a saying that I heard at a really young age, and it was, you cannot be anything if you want to be everything. You can't be the hardest worker at all these different things.
That's good.
So if you find your lane and you decide, I'm going to go as deep down this lane as possible, then that's great. But I can't be, I mean, there are people that are great video game players, that are great runners, great lifters, CrossFitters, anything outside of the physical fitness realm. I won't be as great as them ever at that because they love it more than I do. So I would never put in that work. But in this lane, sure.
I remember when you first started, you started training with me around the same time you first started in Dublin, and you were just super motivated, like wanting to come train at like 5 in the morning, 5:30, 6 in the morning. I'm like, I mean, to me, I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to say no, because like, what kind of coach? But
we also started in your basement too.
Yeah, we did.
So you just had to wake up and get the basement, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that was the easy part for me. I was like, I just got to brush my teeth, go downstairs. And you were like, come in like energy, just ready to go. Did you love it the second you like started learning, or how did you kind of know? I guess for like, just for the people that are like kind of searching right now and just like try things, they don't know if they love it. Like, or do you think there's multiple things you can love like and pursue?
So I think there's multiple things you can love and pursue. I'm not sure you'll be great unless you obsess at least a little bit.
Like no doubt in your mind.
Yeah. And so part of this, I should back up a little bit. When I went to OU, I was never fat, but I was definitely overweight. And so I started to just run. It's pretty down there. There's lots of hills. Would run outside, and I lost a decent amount of weight between just my freshman and sophomore year. So that's kind of what started. I was like, oh, I really like, there's the aesthetics. I look better, but then also I feel better. I feel honestly sharper, more alert. And that's when I started to think about, man, couldn't I learn something too instead of just exercising?
Right.
So that's kind of how I started to go down that path of finding something to learn while also embracing that physical fitness portion.
Okay. What else do you think you built from the sport over these years besides just getting in better shape and your health and stuff? Do you think there's more benefits to it?
Oh yeah, there's definitely, so it's an individual sport, right? But there's, you have a team for sure. And there's, lots of different relationships with people. Okay. I think probably from the outside looking in, there's an assumption about fighters that a lot of them are hard asses, hard to get along with, stubborn. And I haven't experienced that. Yeah. Everyone is pretty open, willing to help, especially if you ask for it. I think if someone is nervous about starting a journey like that, don't be. People enjoy teaching. It makes them better at what they're doing too if they can explain it and show it.
Yeah. I think this sport, for me personally, this sport is my life now.
Right.
But I started at a very young age, and I was just not even that young, not as young as I wanted to be, but like
Me either.
16.
Now I feel old doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm 26.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I feel like I got a late start, but man, from the second I I kind of started half in, half out. And then when I was in my 20s, I fully committed. And that's when I was like going hard. For me, my confidence was like through the roof after a couple years of just committing to it and saying yes and like obsessing, like you were saying.
Yeah.
You feel like you had that? Like you gained confidence through the sport and all
For
this?
sure. For sure. But I think it's funny. I think it came again from that cerebral part of the sport.
Okay. Why do you say that?
I might not still look like someone who does CrossFit every day and could be on the cover of like Men's Health or something.
Right.
But I know that my body can do things that theirs can't.
Right. That you can use your body in ways.
Yeah, exactly. Use it in ways. And they can do things my body can't either. I would just make the argument that the ways I can is more useful. That would be my argument.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I definitely feel that. That's always how I felt too, but I mean, obviously, a little biased.
And we could debate that, and then I would just ask that they let one of us kick them. That would just be my only ask. That'd be
like
my
the fastest
rebuttal.
way to
Yeah, exactly. My
kill the
rebuttal to that.
conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so you're diving deep. You're starting to get into Muay Thai, and you're doing like a bunch of personals. Did you So I guess this is the podcast about financial freedom, but for me, it's just using that money to do what you love, kind of like what you're doing. And you start off with a good job, right? After when you came back through all that.
Yeah, from the Navy, came back. Yeah, so I, again, didn't know what I was going to do. I had this degree from OU. It was a marketing degree. So it was a business degree, probably the least business degree. And family friend that worked at Chase Bank and got a position at a branch that was also right by this apartment that I had and right by the gym.
Okay.
And so that was my first job. And moving back, that job, Muay Thai, all started probably within weeks of each other, less than a month. Yeah.
So you started out as a banker, or?
Yep. So it was a banker training program. I was a trainee. Yeah. You were studying for certain certifications, and then doing like a little bit of customer service because you really need these certifications to do
the actual job.
The actual job. Yeah.
So is it guaranteed when you're in training that you'll get this job, or is it just kind of like?
Yeah. So they have. If you fail these certifications, I think you have to fail them a certain number of times, but before they will get rid of you. But this pass rate is real high.
Yeah.
I, again, kind of fell into that job, did not have a banking or really financial numbers background at all. So while being in that job, I was still kind of searching for a career path. Marketing is
You didn't feel like banking was it?
No, not at all. And I mean, I was pretty upfront about that. Like, look, this is what happened to me. I didn't even plan on being here.
Upfront with your employer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and so was still kind of looking and found a sales job for a food broker still in the Columbus area.
Okay.
Yep.
So how is banking? Like, what is like average salary for like a personal banker?
So that would be, I mean, before you start making any commission, so before you pass those tests, it was about like 42 or 45,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Bad.
And then once you pass those tests and you kind of start your career in that direction, it's uncapped. So I mean, many people make six figures,
right?
And that might even be close to the average. The average was probably between 75 and 85,000 a year.
So what did you not like about the job?
I didn't like studying for the certificate. So I left before I even got to that level.
Oh, really?
Yep. I left before I even got to that level. And really what I didn't like about the job is I couldn't train as much as I wanted to.
They had you there a lot?
Yeah.
Banking hours aren't crazy, right?
They're not crazy, but so the way it worked was you would work 4 days during the week, have a weekday off, but then you would come in on Saturday and have Sunday off. So you never had 2 days back to back that were off.
I see what you mean.
Saturdays
so it
are big
felt
sparring
like you had
days.
like a good day.
Yeah, and Saturdays are big sparring days.
Yeah, of course. So. Yeah, every gym, most gyms spar on Saturdays. So.
Yeah, and I just felt like I could, and the hours were not great either. They were about 10-hour days.
Oh, dang.
Yep.
So you're almost putting in like 50 hours a week.
Yeah, they were 9 to 10 hour days because the bank's hours on Saturdays aren't full time. They're only open, I think, like 9 to 2.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
So to make up for those hours, they've got to stack on hours during those 4 days during the week.
Yeah, but just conveniently in that afternoon slot where you can get into the gym.
Right.
So decided that banking was in the way. Then you left, and then what happened?
Yeah, so decided banking was in the way, coupled with, and I mean, I was making it work the best I could.
Right.
And coupled with the fact that I didn't really like what I was studying for, so I was spending all this time doing something that I just kind of fell into and didn't feel like I chose. And so was looking for a sales job. It was a small family-owned company, this brokerage. Super great people to work with.
You had experience in sales before?
So that degree, that marketing degree, and I had a sales certificate with it also.
Okay.
So I was in a very in-depth sales program at OU too.
Okay, so you felt like you got a good understanding of sales.
Yep.
Okay.
And if I can boil sales down to anything, it's talking to people and being able to answer their questions and objections. So
you never feel like you're pushing anything or anything like that?
Yeah, exactly. Now, I mean, there are a lot of sales jobs that their training kind of boils down to pushing some type of product, but that wasn't the case in talking to them. So
okay. So how was that when you first started? You liked it?
Really great. They're, again, super small company. I was hired with one other guy.
Okay.
So they didn't have a super formal training program, but I was kind of hooked up with a manager that showed me the ropes, and then I kind of got to learn by doing there, which was nice too.
Okay.
The other cool thing about them is that I didn't have to dress like a banker. I can dress like this all the time. Yeah, I can dress like this all the time. I don't look like a banker either.
Yeah, not at all.
So
what are you selling for this company?
So I was in like the convenience store chain.
Okay.
Or team. So Speedways, stores like that.
Okay, so you're just trying to get their products into these different places.
Yeah. So the opposite. So I'm a beef jerky company was a big account that I had. Lindt chocolate, things like that. So getting their products into those stores.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Okay.
Yep. And obviously it's not terrible because for people to stop there, they need gas, and if like you kind of need those products on the shelves, those snack type of products.
Right.
And of course, those manufacturers want those products to be in those stores. So.
Yeah. So you felt a lot of friction starting out, or was it pretty easy? Like, some sales jobs are like a lot of friction starting out, right?
No, not a ton of friction. Again, I think the fact that it was so small that helped.
You didn't feel like the pressure of like a quota and stuff like that?
No, there wasn't one.
Okay.
There wasn't one, especially at the beginning too. And
So
again,
what
not
is-
there that long before making this big move. So
Okay. So what do you think pay is like ranging from if you were like kind of in that position or you're starting out with a company like that?
So the pay there was actually lower than starting.
Oh, so you took a pay cut?
Yep, I took a pay cut. It was like $36,000. Not cut. That was the salary.
Okay.
Again, uncapped commission.
Okay.
Yep.
I see what you mean. So how did you justify that? Just like this is enough for me to live and still do what I love? Or?
Exactly. And I had like, again, with it being much smaller and being a true sales job rather than having to be in a branch, the amount of freedom was super desirable.
Yeah.
That was another great aspect of it.
So you feel like with that sales job, you have more time in your day to...
Exactly. The schedule I was following was 8 to 4.
This is the schedule they gave you, or you...
Yep. So they were like, you can come in 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, like normal business hours. One of those two is kind of what we would prefer.
Yeah.
There's no clocking in or clocking out. And again, that's something I worked for Dick's Sporting Goods. I was in the Navy, Chase Bank. These are three large corporations, right?
Structured.
I mean, we want to know when you get up to go take a shit type of deal. And this, not like that at all. It was super refreshing.
Yeah, I bet.
Yep.
That's awesome. So this has been your job for the most recent time,
Let's
right?
see. Yep. So this would have been... July was a year. It's January now, so a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over this time, you've been using that salary to save up to go to Thailand.
Yep, save to go to Thailand.
How do you start that? That logistics of just figuring that out.
It starts with research. And I mean, really, it started with I was getting interested in this sport. I really had a passion for it. Wanted the ideas just start to get rolling. I had seen examples of people from Columbus, Ohio, that had gone and been extremely successful. Jalil's a great example.
Right.
He's also not the only one. He might be the most successful. He probably is the most successful currently.
Oh yeah, but there's been a ton.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think just like kind of the confidence when you walk into a gym for the first time and you learn the basics. And then you start to kind of put the pieces together on your own. The question that kind of kept popping up was, well, why not me?
Right.
I'm certainly not special. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure anyone else is either.
Yeah.
And so obviously there's a blueprint to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not the first. I certainly won't be the last person to do this. And so it starts with research. And I think social media and the internet have made that pretty easy.
You can do your research in like 15 minutes
exactly.
now.
There's some main hubs in Thailand. That's obviously kind of where I started.
Okay.
All of the gym pretty much almost all of the gyms have actual websites now, not just Facebook pages.
Yeah.
I say almost all. The one I'm actually going to does not have a website.
Yeah.
But most of them, if they don't have a website, they for sure have an Instagram page.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's those geotags, right? So if you didn't recognize it's Phuket or Bangkok, oh, okay, where is this? And yeah, so the gym websites, Instagram pages, examples of not even just fighters from America, but around the world that have gone and are doing this.
Okay.
So
you just figured out the expenses and then you just wrote it all down? And
Yep. So the gym expenses are pretty easy to figure out on their websites. That's where I was going. Like they listed out a day pass, a week, month, 3 months, 6 months, year.
Right.
And they have packages, training only, training and lodging, training and food.
Okay.
That's pretty much how they all look. And then you just have to take that and you have to do a little bit of research on your own about, well, what does it cost to live in Thailand for same type of deal, right? A week, a month, a year.
How did you go about doing that?
So not just the internet so much, but also I tried to find some YouTube videos just because there's that visual aspect of, okay, here's what my place looks like. Here's the type of food that I'm buying.
More real life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. More than just seeing a spreadsheet. Yeah. Because they would lay it out, a 1-bedroom apartment costs blah. Okay, well, what, like, that, a 1-bedroom apartment, that can mean so many different things. Yeah.
Yeah, especially in Thailand.
Exactly, yeah.
So you figured out all your expenses. What other obstacles or hoops you had to go through to?
So one expense, and it sounds stupid saying it now, is like, oh, my plane ticket. And I had help from a family friend that worked at another bank, Huntington, who was just into playing the credit card game. I don't know if you've heard of the newsletter called The Points Guy.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
of it.
And he was like, he followed it, and he had so many Excel spreadsheets about the different types of credit cards and the points you can get, and so
It's like a game.
It is a game, yeah, and that's how he treated it. He thinks it's fun.
Yeah.
And he recommended, he was like, oh, you should get this and this American Airlines card, and when you apply and they send it to you, I forget what the amount is. I think it was if you spend, so you opened up those 2 cards, and if you spent $2,000 in 2 months,
Easy.
you got 50. Yeah, easy. You got 50,000 points.
Wow. So how far does that take you? Do you know?
That will pay at least for my ticket there.
And then if you do it again, it'll pay for the one back? Or?
So the thing about doing it again is opening them and spending that amount is what got the points. Now I get points by using it for gas, groceries, stuff like that, but it's not a huge 50,000 jump now.
Yeah.
That 50,000 was like the initial. That's how they got you in.
So 50,000 per credit card?
No, just
points.
for the one. They wanted you to
one.
open both, and then you got 50,000 American Airlines credit cards.
Okay.
Were. So you got 50,000. It actually might have been more. I think I figured out that 50,000 points would be a one-way ticket there.
Okay.
I think it was more. It might have been 100,000. some expire and
okay.
all that. But yeah, so then you got however many 100,000 American Airlines points.
Right. Okay. Dang. So you're pretty
And
much
that's a
flying
hack I
there.
hadn't thought of. I mean, that could be helpful whether it's Thailand or a trip to New York City or San Francisco or anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the people that are interested, American Airlines, you can just find these cards on their website, or do you know what there are?
Yep. So one is a Citibank card.
Okay.
And that is just the American Airlines Advantage card. The other is a Barclays card, the European bank, and that is the American Airlines Aviator Red card.
Do you know what the qualifications are, or if there are qualifications to get it, or is it pretty easy?
It's pretty easy because I did it. So, and I did not have super high qualifications that would qualify me for some fancy credit cards.
Right.
Yeah. And
That's dope.
and whether it's, I mean, once, and I also signed up for that Points Guy newsletter, and that's
Okay.
had just interesting tidbits, honestly.
And it was worth it? Like,
Oh yeah, it's free.
yeah.
He'll just send it. You can sign up once a day, once a week type of deal.
And he just gives out like free information on.
Free information. So how to use your credit cards for flights, for hotels. Lots of those airlines also have exclusive clubs.
Okay.
How you can get in there, how you can
Wow.
qualify for first class,
Yeah.
like, and all of this for free isn't the right word.
Just not an increase in income or anything like
Right.
coming out of pocket more.
The smartest way to do this in the
Right.
fastest amount of time. In addition to that, because it's kind of travel based, he has some good travel tidbits in there too.
You said thepointsguy.com, right?
Yep, the Points Guy.
Okay.
Yep.
For those of you that want to travel, I think that's.
Yeah,
I've heard of
especially
him.
as the world opens back up too. I mean,
Yeah, it's really like a superpower to me, because then it opens up so many doors to do whatever you want and really live that like financial freedom could just be that, like understanding how to play that game and then
Yes.
just maximizing that and using that to travel. You don't necessarily have to have like a 6-figure salary.
I can figure out how to do things like that by buying my groceries and my gas like I need to anyways. That's kind of his goal, I think, for that site and that newsletter, and he's definitely done a heck of a job.
So you got your flights figured out.
Yep.
What about stay? You figured that out already, or?
Not yet. So stay will be different. Originally, I was going to go and stay at the gym.
Okay.
My girlfriend is going to come with me on the trip.
Okay, that's what's
and
up.
she's a tattoo artist, or an artist who happens to tattoo. She has her own online business and stuff. So we're not going to stay at the gym.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I've heard that's actually not the smartest financial decision, but
and I actually think staying at the gym long term, it might be cool at first, just that whole fighter lifestyle. But I think long term it could be really draining. I just train twice a day for 6 or 7 hours, and now I'm sleeping and hanging out 30 feet from where I did that with the same people. I think for someone who hasn't done that since they were a toddler,
yeah.
burnout, even for a year isn't a very long amount of time, but I think that could definitely happen.
Oh, yeah,
So I think
for
there's some benefits to that too.
And I mean, especially if you're traveling with your significant other or even family and stuff, like
Yeah.
you have to be aware that might not be the lifestyle they want. 'Cause
Sure.
It's a very over there. I mean, they take it seriously.
Yeah.
So it's very like grind mentality. Like they put up with zero like play and all that stuff.
Right. So, and
Yeah.
I think it'd be nice to, like, yes, that's my 6-7 hours a day, and then I can step back from that and be ready to do it all again tomorrow.
Right. Okay.
And I was kind of considering that also back when I was looking at this as just me going there, that it would be kind of nice to at least at some point have some type of 1-bedroom apartment that was close.
Okay. So I guess let's start. Well, I mean, I don't want to skip over it because I feel like the first fight is so big in every fighter's life. How was your first fight?
So my first fight got canceled 6 times because of COVID. So
insane.
I had 6 first fights that all got canceled.
Lined up, ready to fight, or just
lined up, ready to fight. Yep.
how far out did they get canceled?
The closest one was less than a week.
So you were pretty much.
I was
training twice a
pretty
day
much
and-
on weight and everything. Yep.
Dang.
Yep. And then it got to a point where it was almost assumed like these events are going to get canceled.
Yeah.
Like you just started reading the news and stuff like that. And so my first fight was at TBA at National.
It's a big one.
And it was a huge learning experience because of the scoring system for Thai. Like I said, I had a boxing background.
Yeah.
I bloodied this other guy up with my hands and lost. A split decision loss. But
so well, I guess, not to cut you off.
No.
I want to dive into that a little bit more. Like, what was the biggest difference between scoring systems that caught you off guard?
So I just didn't have a full knowledge of it.
Okay.
Not all strikes are scored the same, and that was my mistake and my assumption. And so, if I could have just fit more kicks in between those punches, that would have been great.
Right. All right. So, should have fit more kicks in. What else did you learn from that fight?
So that scoring system, what it was really like to kind of have a little bit of a crowd there. It wasn't packed, but there were probably a couple hundred people. And that's also a setup where there's 4 fights happening all at one time. So
it's less like pressure on you.
It's less pressure on you, but then you will hear the crowd and not like it's not for you guys. Like so that's kind of a weird phenomenon that I didn't really think about.
Yeah, for sure. I know what you mean. Because then it messes with me when guys are screaming and they're like,
exactly.
You might have just got hit and you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
It still gets to your head. So how did you do in that fight? How did you feel after?
I felt really well. I wasn't hurt badly at all. I was frustrated with the decision, obviously, but I mean, in the losses that I've had, I've never been frustrated with the work that's been put in leading up to them.
You never felt like you didn't do enough.
Right. And I mean, I felt like I didn't do enough in those 9 minutes.
Right.
But I have never once felt unprepared.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I 100% believe that just because in the short time that we trained together, I've seen that you always given 100%. You never like complained or been like second guessed yourself.
Just in my head, I would complain. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's all that matters as long as it doesn't come out. I mean, honestly, like I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, the second you let something come out, because I was doing some crazy yoga routine, and I was like, man, this is terrible. Like I'm not like flexible like this. They had me doing all crazy stuff. And then I was like, when I stopped saying no and I just like let it happen, it became so much easier.
Yeah, you just relaxed.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you think your mentality outside of the gym changed from having that first fight?
Outside of the gym change? I don't.
It didn't change you?
I don't think so. I mean, it was a loss and didn't go the way I wanted, but I mean, I loved that portion of my life even more than I had before.
Yeah.
I mean, competing is really fun. It's when you do some type of combat sport, you don't get to perform very often, just because your body can't take that much damage. I mean, it's in Thailand you could fight every night theoretically if you wanted to, and I think most probably don't fight maybe 8 times a year, 12 times a year, unless they're super healthy coming off from what research I've done. So you put all this work in leading up, and it's minutes that you get to perform, and it's not like you're getting to do that every day or every week even.
Yeah.
So it really is, I think, if you can get your mind to a chance where like, okay, this is the reward for all that I've done. And I mean, I talked about it a little bit at the beginning, and like, yes, for those minutes, it's you versus another person, but it is still you versus you.
100%. Because I think the fastest way to go from winning a fight to losing is starting to let that self-doubt seep into your mind at all.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the second you let it seep into you, it starts to take over your body.
Yeah.
For me personally, I've become way more mentally resilient. Like things that would get to me before, I like don't even blink at now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt the same way, but how many fights have you had up to this point?
Including my boxing fights, 6. Those boxing fights are pretty spread out.
And did you feel like you had to hit a number before you went to Thailand, or you're just like, I just want to go?
No, I mean, I know people that have gone for a pretty long time and never taken a fight. They wanted to 100%. Just train.
Yeah.
There are people that will go for fitness. Again, this is different than lifting weights and running. And so there's a cultural aspect to the reason they're going, or maybe more of a cultural aspect. They want to go and experience it.
Right.
And the fitness is a byproduct of that.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't feel like that at all. And I've also, again, from some of the videos I've seen, and I mean, people can control what they put out on the internet, but like the trainers are all pretty nice.
Yeah.
So
I think for the people that don't know, like Muay Thai is a very like, I don't even know how to describe it. I guess a more humble sport, or like they don't focus on like the wins and losses. It's just like, if you ask some people how many fights they've had, they'll just tell you the number. Like boxers might tell you like their record, or like I'm 50-0 and keeping that 0 and like stuff like that. Like in Muay Thai, there's literally no celebration and having no losses. Like fighters that have had like 200 fights and 100 losses are respected more.
Yeah.
So I
mean,
guess
there are champions that I've read, they've had double-digit losing streaks throughout their career.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and I mean they fight, and people that don't know, most Thai fighters are like that live and train over there, that grew up in Thailand, are like in the 200 to 300 range.
Yes.
So I guess, what is your goal going out there?
My goal, again, I got into this. You feel like you got into it late. I got into it even later. I got into it at 24, about to turn 25, I think.
Yeah.
And so my goal is to be able to, so my window of competing is short, right?
Right.
So I would like to be as successful as I can in that window, but know that my path in the sport is to be as great of a coach probably as I can. So again, still being pretty new to the sport, I feel like this is just part of that steep learning curve where if I go now, for that period of time, an extended period of time, I can accelerate my knowledge at now what's considered a much younger age.
That's very true. How did you decide on coaching, I guess?
So it came with where I train at now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had lots of great coaches and training partners and things. And I think part of it was that how great I felt learning a skill. And so if I could make other people feel like that, I think that was always in the back of my mind. But especially with the gym I'm at most now has a pretty big BJJ and MMA community also.
Right.
And so when they would ask for my advice in striking, and I mean, who am I? They may have had more MMA fights than me, or more competitions than me, but little nuances or things that they notice that maybe now I didn't even think about. And I really liked showing them and helping them. I like holding pads. I like hitting pads probably still a little more now, but I like holding pads too.
For sure. That's dope. So I guess you're going out there with the idea of coming back and coaching, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you feel like
probably coming back and coaching and fighting, right, simultaneously?
Okay. So you're gonna take the fighting as long as you can.
Yep, until that window closes.
Okay. Do you feel like there's such thing as like too old, or I guess like too late to start for the people who have never started?
No, there's someone who I work with who he is 50 and started this year.
Wow.
And he has said, and this is a guy who has a martial arts background that spans things like Taekwondo. He's big into knife defense, gun defense, and things like that. So there's like some Krav aspects, I think, in there. And then came upon Thai and decided to learn this new skill at 50. And he's told me, he's like, I want to just take one fight. There's one at 50, and then I can say I did it.
Wow.
And I've met a couple people like that at younger ages, but then they're 30s. Who are like, well, I want to do it one time.
Okay. So for the people that have like used to be ex-athletes, you used to compete when you played all those sports and
baseball and basketball. Yeah, I mean, I was on like the high school baseball team and played rec basketball. That was, they had a schedule, but it just wasn't as competitive.
Do you feel like the pressure of playing in the game is the same as fighting in the fight?
No, not at all. So
what's the difference?
Since I have taken up fighting, I've become less of a sports fan.
Really?
It just, shooting a ball in a net or throwing a ball to someone else doesn't seem as important or as exciting or any of those things as fighting. Not that I don't still enjoy watching them, but I watch a lot more 3-minute YouTube highlight reels than I do full games anymore.
Okay. I see what you
and
mean.
that includes OSU football, which is like sacrilegious here. So
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I'm the same way. I definitely understand what you mean.
the pressure is more in a fight.
Yeah, it's just like,
And
it's faster. Like,
it's faster, and I think like I've had to, I'll use the phrase like wake up in each one of my fights, where I've had to connect with the strike and also be hit, and I'm like, okay, this feels like every time we sparred in the gym.
Yeah.
Like there is a fear aspect where I think
it's bigger than those other sports.
there's fear here, and I think you control that to nerves at some point. Whereas in other sports, there's just nerves. It's not fear.
Right. Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Fear. This guy's going to try to take your head off. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay. So, I guess just to finish off, how would you help someone that like is starting out or where you were when you first started training and kind of has some doubts about fighting or doesn't know if it's for them?
Fighting or just training in Muay Thai in general? Or both? Both? Okay. Training in Muay Thai is for everyone. I have had, my mom has come to a class with me. Yep. And she's in her 60s. I mean, she's older than that. Now, she came to one because she thought it was fun. But like, she is able to do it. This gentleman who's 50 is more than capable of doing it. He's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Especially when you take into account his age.
Yeah.
So training Thai is for everyone. There was someone at that Dublin gym who was an amputee on their leg, and he trained in Thai. Fighting is something you have to want to do.
Okay.
If you do not want to, then I don't think you should.
How did you tell the difference between like self-doubt and like, I guess maybe not really having your heart in it? You know what I mean? Yeah,
I mean, you can be someone who's very committed to training.
Yeah.
That is showing up to all the classes that your gym might offer, maybe scheduling a couple private sessions with a coach, just I want to work on this or that. And I think the difference between flipping from that to competitor is, what are the things that I have to do outside of the four walls of the gym that will benefit me for those, again, only minutes in the ring. And that is running, that is weight training, that is your diet, and your weight is a huge one, and that one definitely falls on just you.
That one's overlooked.
Yeah, definitely
severely overlooked.
Definitely overlooked.
Yeah.
Am I willing to do those things to benefit my performance for those minutes? And that doesn't mean there are more strict times where you have to pay more attention to that than others, like a fight camp. But if you're not kind of always aware of that or have it in the back of your mind, then that's kind of where that line is, I'd say.
Okay. I like that. All right. So to wrap it up, I guess just let them know where they can find you at if they have questions, or even they just want to follow your journey, because I mean, you're going to have a super interesting one going out there.
Yeah. So my Instagram is just Luke Albu, LukeAlbu. And I mean, I try and post. I'm trying to get better at posting on there. And then I'm building a website also, and that is just Luke Albu, LukeAlbu.com. So I'll try and post some things there too and have them combined. And if anyone wants to do more than just follow, they can always message me. I'm public, so you can message me without following me if you want to too. And I will answer any questions that people might have from seeing this. Point people in the right direction.
Real quick, what's your website about? It's going to be about Muay Thai training?
Yeah, it's going to be about Thai training. It's going to be a little bit, I'd like to try and combine the experience of living in another country, from the pictures I've seen, beautiful country. But it'll be mostly that training focus still. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Man, well, appreciate y'all's time for another episode. This episode was a little bit different, but I think it was super important because it helped me realize that everyone's dream that you might need money for, that you don't always need money for, if you know what I'm saying. Like, you can find loopholes, like the airline hack and those credit card hacks and stuff like that. But take what you learned today and go straight to the bag. I appreciate y'all. Peace.